You're listening to Something Cheeky, a collection of podcasts where two sisters discuss TV, books, and movies with just enough irreverence and far too many pop culture references. Welcome to Something Cheeky, the Gentleman Bastards edition, where we discuss the Lies of Locke Lamora, book 1 of the series by Scott Lynch. I'm Nikki.
I'm Rosanna.
Well, I've read the entire series. Rosanna has only read up to what we're covering today, which is the epilogue, Falselight. In this chapter, the spider is outwitted and Locke and Jean pull off the great escape. All right, Rosanna, before we get into it, the book is over. How do you feel?
I feel excited to start the next one.
Yeah?
I want to see what happens next. Also, a little irritated that even in the epilogue, we still did not meet Sabbatha.
Yep. No Sabbatha at all.
WTF, Nikki.
I told you she popped up during that fight with Jean and the twins. Why didn't you see her?
I didn't believe you because you're a liar.
You know me so well.
So now I don't even know if she's ever going to. Is she always going to be just like a ghost?
That's an excellent question.
Thank
that
you.
I'm not going to answer. So what was your reaction to the chapter itself?
As epilogues are often, this was bittersweet. It was sad that the book was over because it's a really good book and I enjoyed reading it. But also, I felt good about where Locke and Jean are.
Okay.
I feel good about the way they left things. And I think it was nice that we got a sort of wrap up.
Yeah.
Of what had been left open.
Yeah, I'm glad it wasn't a cliffhanger.
Yes, me too.
What was your favorite quote from this epilogue?
The quote I chose was by the Donna Vorchenza.
Ah.
And I could just sort of see her having this light bulb moment. I could imagine this happening. Oh gods, Anatolis killed 3 of his friends, so don't you see? There was no danger on that ship. He didn't want it to sink to save Camorr. It was a death offering, Stephen. A death offering. So I can just imagine her just going, oh, of course. And then, in addition to that, how good it felt to hear that that's what Locke had been planning and that he was thinking about his brothers this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
I think it also kind of means that he feels guilty about them dying, but maybe this was a way to help him move on.
Yeah, because it never actually had him recognizing or explaining in his thought process that it was a death offering, did it?
No, this was the only time we ever heard that.
Okay. Yeah, we didn't even hear from him that that's what it was.
It makes total sense.
Oh, yeah. Let's get into the action. There's not much that happens in this epilogue, but it's big stuff. So it's the day after the Day of Changes, I'm assuming because everyone's still hungover. And we started out the epilogue with a throwback to the prologue. It described the year, the season, and the weather. I thought it was a nice kind of circle back to the beginning. There are rumors going around Camorr that an assassination attempt happened at Ravensreach. There are yellow jackets and black jackets all over the city, seem to be like looking for someone or all under some sort of orders. The Falconer was discovered tied to the floor of a hovel with a note for the spider to return him to Carthage. The soldiers that had brought him to the next people up seemed pretty nervous when they saw his Bonds Magi tattoo. Were you surprised that he was basically just turned over to the spider?
I was not surprised. And also, I was actually very glad that they pointed out the tattoos because the beginning of that sentence sort of sounded like Raza survived.
Oh, okay.
They bring somebody who's wearing gray, who is barely alive. And I was like, no. Because then I thought it really was going to be a cliffhanger book.
I'm pretty sure it was the Grey King's cloak because Jean took that to carry Locke back to Ibelius. And then they probably left that at the hovel. So I can see why you would think it might be him.
Yeah, it freaked me out.
The way he's described, it seems like he may have gone insane.
Or he's trying really hard to tell somebody something.
Yeah.
But he can't.
And he's sent to the Palace of Patience to await the spider finding out that he's there. I'm kind of sad that we don't get her finding him.
I also don't think she's going to send him back.
Oh. What else would she do with him?
Keep him in a cell because he's a criminal?
Maybe. Yeah, he did mess with her mind, but it's not like he's dangerous anymore, right? So.
Well, you still send murderers to jail even if they're not dangerous anymore.
That's true.
There are people in jail in wheelchairs, and it would be hard for them to hurt people, but they still have to serve time for what they did.
That's a terrible example. How many supervillains are in wheelchairs? Come on. Mr. Glass from Unbreakable. Professor X, he wasn't a villain, but he is super dangerous. So then we do go straight to Vorchenza, who is on the docks where all the shit barges are at. The poor enlisted men have shoveled through 2 of them, and they've been at the 3rd one for 6 hours, and have not found anything. What a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
There's no money there. That would be really depressing if the money had been there, to get through the whole thing and find it, and then not even get to keep any of the money after you had just done that.
That's true.
It's almost worse than not finding anything at all.
Yeah.
The Salvaras and Reynard are all there to see about the money with Vorchenza. And she realizes she's been had and calls off the shoveling. And then she doubles over and everyone thinks she's hurt. And it turns out she's just laughing hysterically because she realizes the money, like you said, was on the Satisfaction the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
She starts to put 2 and 2 together, remembers that Raza had been sending supplies to the ship that must have been the money, and there was never a plague. No one even seemed to understand what she was talking about, and she had to explain that Locke, or Lucas, or Tavern, whatever you want to call him, was a priest of the 13th of Paralandro, which led to her figuring out it was the death offering. Also, that was a seriously amazing death offering. They got a lot more than the kids Locke killed in the beginning of the story.
Well, they meant a lot more to him.
They did. I mean, I wonder how much it worked out to be for each of them. Because it was, 40 or 45,000 crowns of their money, plus all the money from Kappa Barsavi. So God knows how much was actually there. They probably each got 20,000 crowns easy, if not more.
Yeah.
So then, oddly enough, the spider tells them they're not allowed to say anything about everything that's happened to the money. They have to pretend like the thorn is a myth, and that the spider never actually cared about this whole matter. And it's not to protect Locke at all, it's actually just to keep Nigavanti and the spider from seeming weak to everyone. And there's no reason to spread the word they've all been tricked.
Right.
There's no benefit for them in this. And then the Salvaras are offered the Amberglass Tower and the job of the spider, which, if you work it out, basically this means, this whole story, the Salvaras spent about 17,000 crowns to get the Amberglass Tower and the rank and the job. That's a pretty good deal, really.
It is a good deal.
If you think of it that way.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a priceless rank that they're getting. I'm sure they would have happily paid more than that if they knew that's what they would end up with. When Donna Sophia finds out they're going to get the tower, she says, "What? Sophia squeaked like a girl of 8. A particularly squeaky girl of 8. Much accustomed to squeaking loudly." And then we get to the ship. I love it because it starts out, "Master Lamora," cried Abelius. "This is entirely unacceptable." And when I first read that, I was thinking, he must be angry Locke's hurt again.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
He's angry about something all the time. Because Locke is all wrapped up like a sausage in blankets and oilcloths on the top deck, and he won't go below decks for this voyage that they're on. They're on a ship called the Golden Gain, leaving Camorr. It's going to Talisham and then Tal Verarr after that. I was wondering where they stayed the night since they had to leave the Falconer in the hovel. I don't know where they went. It doesn't really matter, but...
Maybe they were on the boat. It just hadn't left yet.
Maybe. Jean apologizes for using his true name all these years.
Yeah, Jean, why can't you see the future?
And they get all bromancy. "Jean," said Locke, "you're a greater friend than I could ever have imagined before I met you. I owe you my life too many times over to count. I would rather be dead myself than lose you. Not just because you're all I have left." It's very sweet.
That is sweet.
And Jean wants to know Locke's real name. And I wondered if he has ever suspected all this time that Locke Lamora was not his true name.
I would guess that he thought that was his true name.
Yeah. I'm willing to bet, though, that Chains knew it wasn't.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Locke whispers his name to Jean. It's 5 syllables. What could it be?
I don't know. Should I?
I was trying to think of some name that was 5 syllables long I could pull out, but I couldn't think of anything off the top of my head.
I'm going to go with Aaron Vorchenza.
Is he the son of the Donna?
No, probably not. Let's say his name is Jeff Nicovante. Oh, I think that's a lot more likely than Vorchenza.
Yeah, you think he might be the Duke's son?
Well, I think you can have relations that aren't your children. He could be a nephew or a grandson, because the Duke is old, isn't he?
Yeah. Whatever his name is, it's apparently more of a mouthful than Locke Lamora.
But also, Jean seemed like, ooh, that means something to me. Is that not what you got from that?
Well, he says, Locke whispered 5 syllables and Jean's eyes widened. You know, he said, I'd have gone with Locke in preference to that myself.
So that could be that it's a name he recognizes.
Maybe.
And also that he wouldn't want to be associated with.
Maybe it is Nicovante.
I'm going to hang on to that one for a little while.
Maybe it's Bob Luciano, like Anatolius Luciano, the Grey King.
Yeah, I don't think he's related to them.
It was nice, though, that he actually remembers it, because we weren't sure in the beginning when we theorized about that not being his real name, and wondered if he actually remembered his real name.
Yeah, if he was too young to remember being called something.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the book in general before we get to your top 3. No Sabbatha, like you said. I loved that she and Locke breaking up was such a hot topic of gossip in Camorr for a while. Actually, wouldn't have been surprised if the Falconer had mentioned her at some point during a torture scene just to make it worse for Locke.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. That sounds like him.
What do you think broke them up?
I don't know what broke them up, but I feel pretty secure in guessing it was Locke's fault.
I can go with that, yeah. We didn't find out anything more about the Eldrin. It was solid information.
As I suspected.
No Eldrin giant squid at all, which is too bad. I would have liked to see more of the Black Alchemists, the Dobarts, the mother and daughter.
Me too.
I feel like they probably have a really good kind of side story I would enjoy reading. And the same with Nazca. I was thinking I really want a Nazca Funko Pop doll, like steampunk pirate Nazca. She always sounded so awesome.
It's sad that she didn't get to be in the story very long.
Yeah. I'm guessing you're pretty happy that Jean made it to the end of the book.
Yeah, I am. I am happy that Jean made it to the end of the book. As I suspected he would. There you go.
I know you claimed that there's no way he would die, but were you worried at points that he would?
Of course. I mean, he got beat up pretty good, even when he won, so.
Yeah. I was glad that we didn't see the Thief Maker again after the beginning of the book. I did not miss him.
I don't ever need to see him again.
I am sad that we didn't get more of Father Chains. I still want his origin story. I'd love to see how he died, or I'm sure he had a really awesome funeral with a stone casket, probably. I also feel like he would have left a hilarious will that required the Gentleman Bastards to do all these crazy things to get like a secret stash of cash.
I feel like his funeral procession would have visited every temple. They would have had to go see all of them.
I like that. And the Falconer. So if he does get sent back to Carthane, or even if he doesn't, I'm sure that they'll find out what happened to him. They must keep tabs on there. They're magicians.
Well, how else would they know if they were killed?
Yeah. Do you think there are going to be any repercussions for Locke and Jean after what they did?
Well, somebody would have to be able to tell them, and the Falconer's not doing it.
Well, you could figure out a way to write very badly and slowly, but
I suppose it's always possible. Maybe that's the whole plot of the next book, is Jean and Locke running away from the Bonds Magi.
That'd be pretty bad.
I could just see him rowing their little boat really fast, and then a huge boat full of Bonds mages just like throwing spells at them.
So in the next episode, we're going to discuss the next book. Oh my god.
Yay!
Called Red Seas Under Red Skies. And we're going to cover the prologue called A Strained Conversation and chapter 1 called Little Games. And I won't ask you to make predictions because, well, you can if you want. Do you want to make predictions about the next book?
Based on the titles you just gave me? No.
Or anything.
I think we're probably going to see Locke and Jean.
That seems likely, yes.
I keep saying this and it keeps not being true, but maybe they're headed to wherever Sabbatha is.
Oh.
Or maybe she's going to be one of their stops.
Well, yeah, because we don't know actually where she is, just that she's 1,000 miles away from Camorr.
Yeah, and I think that they might feel an obligation to tell her.
Yeah.
You know, about the deaths of the other guys. So, I swear, if she doesn't show up in the next book either, I'm just going to be so confused about why she was ever even invented.
Mystery continues. All right, Rosanna, what's your top 3 for the epilogue?
These are the top 3 answers that we got in the epilogue.
Oh, all right.
Number 1, what happened to the Falconer? He was given over to the authorities. Number 2, what's going to happen to the Salvaras? They're going to be the new spider.
They're going to be the authorities.
Number 3, what's going to happen to Locke and Jean? They are leaving Camorr. And I would just like to point out a couple of things that I was right about. I thought either the Grey King and or the Falconer were going to end up in jail. I thought that Locke was going to arrange it so Vorchenza got control of them somehow.
Yeah.
I said way back when that Sophia Salvara should be the next spider.
You did.
I did. When they had their first conversation, when they had the tea that made their pee glow. I suggested that. And then also I've been saying forever that in the next book it's going to be Locke somewhere else, that he was going to leave Camorr.
That's true.
So I feel pretty good about my prediction skills. We're not going to talk about the ones that I made that were horribly, horribly wrong.
Oh, there were some fun ones.
Some doozies. Yeah. We don't have to talk about those.
So we're going to do something that we haven't done in this podcast yet. We've done it in Vikings in our season finale, where I have my own top 3 for the whole season or the whole book. My top 3 category for this book are top 3 favorite lies of Locke Lamora.
Ooh, good one.
Thanks. So number 1, that Locke was a midnighter. After he had already played Lucas in front of Don Salvar earlier that day, he was crazy talented and confident enough to pull off this lie that he was not just a different person, but a freaking midnighter, which is amazing.
That was a great chapter.
Number 2, when Locke lied to pretend he was just a regular old thief to get away with paying minimal taxes to Kappa Barsavi for years.
Yes.
And maintain their elaborate cons without ever bringing any suspicion on them.
There was a lot to that lie.
He was so good at making that lie work that not only did he get away with it, but the Kappa trusted him more than other people he knew were cheating him, when Locke was cheating him way more than anybody else was. And my number 3 favorite lie of Locke Lamora was when he lied to make the Falconer think that Locke was his true name. He pretended to be under the true name spell just long enough to incapacitate the Falconer instead of just laughing at him, which he easily could have done. Those are my top 3 for this book.
I like them.
Thanks. So I have a little surprise for you, Rosanna.
Okay.
Before we get to our cheek of the week, I'm going to read the prologue from the next book to you.
Yay!
And you're going to hate me so much when we get to the end. But it's going to be so
fun. All right, tell me again the name of the prologue.
It's called A Strained Conversation.
Okay.
Little less conversation, a lot more action.
Ooh, my favorite.
Prologue. A Strained Conversation. Locke Lamora stood on the pier in Tal Verarr with the hot wind of a burning ship at his back and the cold bite of a loaded crossbow's bolt at his neck. He grinned and concentrated on holding his own crossbow level with the left eye of his opponent. They were close enough that they would catch most of each other's blood, should they both twitch their fingers at the same time. "Be reasonable," said the man facing him. Beads of sweat left visible trails as they slid down his grime-covered cheeks and forehead. "Consider the disadvantages of your situation." Locke snorted. "Unless your eyeballs are made of iron, the disadvantage is mutual. Wouldn't you say so, Jean?" They were standing 2 by 2 on the pier, Locke beside Jean, their assailants beside one another. Jean and his foe were toe-to-toe with their crossbows similarly poised. 4 cold metal bolts were cranked and ready, scant inches away from the heads of 4 understandably nervous men. Not one of them could miss at this range, not if all the gods above or below the heavens willed it otherwise. All four of us would seem to be up to our balls in quicksand, said Jean. On the water behind them, the old galleon groaned and creaked as the roaring flames consumed it from the inside out. Night was made day for hundreds of yards around. The hull was crisscrossed with white-orange lines of seams coming apart. Smoke boiled out of the hellish cracks in those little black eruptions, the last shuddering breaths of a vast wooden beast dying in agony. The four men stood at the very end of the pier, strangely alone in the midst of light and noise that was drawing the attention of the entire city. "Lower your piece for the love of gods," said Locke's opponent. "We've been instructed not to kill you if we don't have to." "And I'm sure you'd be honest if it were otherwise, of course," said Locke. His smile grew. "I make it a point never to trust men with weapons at my windpipe. Sorry. Your hand will start to shake long before mine does. I'll rest the tip of my quarrel against your nose when I get tired. Who sent you after us? What are they paying you? We're not without funds. A happy arrangement could be reached." "Actually," said Jean, "I know who sent them." "Really?" Locke flicked a glance at Jean before locking eyes with his adversary once again. "And an arrangement has been reached, but I wouldn't call it happy." Jean, I'm afraid you've lost me." "No." Jean raised one hand, palm out, to the man opposite him. He then, slowly, carefully, shifted his aim to the left, until his crossbow was pointing at Locke's head. The man he'd previously been threatening blinked in surprise. "You've lost me, Locke." "Jean," said Locke, the grin vanishing from his face. "This isn't funny." "I agree. Hand your piece over to me." "Jean, hand it over now." "Smartly. You there. You some kind of moron? Get that thing out of my face and point it at him." Jean's former opponent licked his lips nervously, but didn't move. Jean ground his teeth together. "Look, you sponge-witted dock ape. I'm doing my job for you. Point your crossbow at my goddamn partner so we can get off this pier." "Jean, I would describe this turn of events as less than helpful," said Locke. And he would have said more, except that Jean's opponent chose that moment to take Jean's advice. It seemed to Locke that sweat was now veritably cascading down his face, as though his own treacherous moisture were abandoning the premises before anything worse happened. There, 3 on 1. Jean spat on the pier and waved toward the two assailants with his free hand. "You gave me no choice but to cut a deal with the employer of these gentlemen before we set out. God's damn it, you forced me. I'm sorry. I thought they'd make contact before they drew down on us. Now give your weapon over." "Jean, what the hell do you think you're—" Don't say another fucking thing. Don't try to finesse me. I know you too well to let you have your say. Silence, Locke. Finger off the trigger and hand it over." Locke stared at the steel-tipped point of Jean's quarrel, his mouth open in disbelief. The world around him seemed to fade to that tiny, gleaming point, alive with the orange reflection of the inferno blazing in the anchorage behind them. Jean would have given him a hand signal if he were lying. Where the hell was the hand signal? "I don't believe this," he whispered. "This is impossible. This is the last time I'm going to say this, Locke." Jean ground his teeth together and held his arm steady, directly between Locke's eyes. "Take your finger off the trigger and hand over your goddamn weapon right now." And that's the prologue.
I don't buy it. I don't think Jean would ever turn against Locke. It's part of a bigger plan.
Locke seemed pretty, confused about it.
Well, I mean, I might seem confused about it too if somebody was holding a weapon to my head. But, from the safety and security of my own home, I'm pretty sure I'm right.
No hand signal.
Well, he's holding a crossbow. Maybe a hand signal would be too obvious.
I've seen them do pretty subtle hand signals before.
You've never seen him do anything. It's a book.
Shush you. So, Rosanna, any predictions based on this for what's going to happen in the next book?
Well, it sounds like some people are after Locke and Jean, and these people are being paid to find/capture them, but not kill them.
Yeah.
So, I don't think it's Vorchenza, because she kind of said, if you leave and I don't ever hear your name again, I won't come after you.
Or the Salvaras.
I guess, but I think they'll be busy learning how to be the spider and preoccupied with that. Especially because they're not really out anything now. Except embarrassment. They're embarrassed, but that's it.
Yeah.
And nobody else knows.
It's true.
So they don't really have that many people to be embarrassed in front of.
Do you think now that the Salvaras are going to be the spider, do you think that is going to ever come back to bite Locke and Jean in the ass?
I think Locke and Jean should not go back to Camorr because they'd have a hard time hiding from the Salvaras when the Salvaras have the control of the Midnighters. So I don't think it's Bond's mages from Carthage because they wouldn't send two people with crossbows.
Yeah.
They would send people with powers.
Maybe they're magic crossbows.
Well, then they wouldn't have had a face-off. It would just be over.
That's probably true.
Also, if they found them, they would know it was Jean, and they know that's Jean's name, and they know how to use it.
So who do you think their employer is? These two men
Apparently,
and
somehow, just in this little bit of time, Locke and Jean have pissed off a whole new set of people. So, good job, guys. Maybe it has something to do with the boat that's burning behind them. I'm not really sure what's happening with the boat, why the boat is on fire.
I wonder if I should tell you this piece or not.
I don't know why you wouldn't. You should. You should definitely tell me right now.
I have to be careful, because if I tell you, I can't take it back. I can't, make you unknow it. I will tell you this. You're going to spend at least a little bit of this book trying to get to the moment in the prologue.
Okay.
Trying to find out how you got there, how they got there.
So, Screech! Locke looks at the camera. I bet you're wondering how I got here.
But it makes you really, really paranoid while you read.
Okay.
You'll be reading into everything.
So what you're saying is this scene is not right after they arrived. I keep wanting to say Tel Aviv. Where are they? Tal Verarr. This has not happened as soon as they got off the boat at Tal Verarr. It's later.
Yeah. It's reminiscent of Floki right now in the end of season 2 of Vikings. Floki and Ragnar with their friendship seems to be distancing, and you're trying to figure out what exactly caused it. And
I'm gonna be looking for the crack where Jean turns.
Right. Yeah.
But like I already said, I don't think that's true. So
okay,
I won't be looking for it. I'll probably just get totally blindsided later. As usual.
So listeners, we're going to have a short hiatus between the end of this book and the beginning of the next one. But during that time, we're going to be coming out with a new additional show under our Something Cheeky umbrella, which is going to cover various movies. We're going to have a Wonder Woman episode that comes out during that time, and also a Spider-Man Homecoming episode that comes out, where we're going to do the same kind of one sister new to the material, one sister knows it already kind of format. So all you have to do to find those is go to our website. We'll have them posted up there. If you just do a search for Something Cheeky in your podcast app, iTunes, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, whatever you use, you can also just search for Something Cheeky there and you'll find this additional show. So it'll be really easy to find us. And you can see our posts on Twitter and Facebook about it as well as soon as those episodes come out. All right, now it's time for Cheek of the Week, where we talk about something awesome that we love. So we already heard your cheek, Rosanna, on our Vikings episode for this week.
Yes.
So listeners, you should go listen to that if you want to hear Rosanna's cheek, which is pretty rad.
I believe so.
My cheek this week is a book series, which I know I kind of did a book series last week too, but whatever.
Hey, we like books.
We really do. And you like books too, people. Come on.
Obviously. Be
honest. So this is a book series that I've probably mentioned a few times here and there, and it also has some magic. Actually, a whole bunch of magic. It's a book series called The Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. There are 15 books out so far. They're a lot smaller than The Lies of Locke Lamora. They're like a regular paperback size kind of book. It's a book series about a wizard named Harry Dresden. Harry Blackstone Copperfield Dresden. That's his full name, I think. But he is a wizard in Chicago, and he advertises in the phone book under wizard. He's the only entry there. And he's really funny. He actually has a ton of pop culture references, so he's near and dear to my heart. And he is a really great magician. There is a white council of wizards, of very powerful wizards that he's a part of. He's on bad terms with them.
He's on their shit list?
He really, really is. There's a thing that they call the Sword of Damocles hanging over his head, which means if he fucks up, then they're going to kill him. So it's pretty dangerous because of something he did when he was younger. And it's just a series of following him around. He works as a private investigator, and he does a lot of work with the police department in Chicago. And he does all these cases that have to do with supernatural things. You meet a ton of supernatural creatures. You meet fairies. There are vampires, wizards, and warlocks. There are people that have magic, but not really strong magic. There are gods at some points. It's really, really fun. He gets in all sorts of crazy, hilarious situations, and he's always in trouble with everybody around him. There are 15 books out so far, and I think the 16th one is supposed to come out any day now. And I'm reading them for the second time through because they're just fun. They really hold up. That's my cheek.
All right, cheekies, you can visit our website to find all of our cheeks of the week, learn about our other podcasts, hear my cheek of the week this week, send us your questions and feedback, and you can support the show through our Amazon affiliate link at somethingcheekypodcast.com/Amazon.
That's our episode. Please leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow us on Twitter at somecheek and facebook.com/somecheek. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Do